conference scheduling right now. I mean, you've already done enough, and you've already changed enough rules. So why not change another and let Ohio State maybe go out there and play a Texas A&M? Maybe let them go play a Cincinnati. I think a lot of people would want to see those matchups.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the matchup, but if I'm the SEC, why would I put Texas A&M in that bubble? Why would I tell them, hey, go and play this game so you can help out Ohio State? No, I'm not hearing all that. The Big Ten should be hung up by their toes on this one, and they should be left to hang on this simply because of what they did in the summertime. It's their fault. It's not the fault of the Texas A&M roster, who, in my opinion, should be sitting there anyway and getting ready to possibly move up from 5th to 4th, because next week when they do the next CFP rankings, if Ohio State is 4th, in my opinion, the fix is absolutely in, and it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and I just really think they're going to put Ohio State in with what I heard from the college football committee the other day. The way I heard them talking, it sounded like they put Ohio State in even if they didn't play in the Big Ten championship regardless. I mean, it was unbelievable how they were talking the other day. So I'm with you. I'm not saying it's right, but I think that they're going to put Ohio State in that. I think they're going to put Ohio State in that top 4. I just have a feeling that's how it's going to roll.
All right. Well, on that front, though, I'm going to throw a team at you, and do you think that they should be in over Ohio State? Yeah, and take their spot. The first one is Texas A&M. Would you rather see them in over Ohio State?
Rob, I think if Texas A&M and Ohio State played this weekend, I think Ohio State would win.
It's not a question of the matchups. It's a question of what not necessarily the matchup. It's a question of who's done more and earned it.
Texas A&M, the 28-point loss to Alabama, I can't get that out of my head. So I'll go Ohio State on that one.
All right, how about Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is one of my favorite teams in all of the country, and I would like Cincinnati over Ohio State. If you want to go off of how you're asking the question, I'd say Cincinnati. But again, Cincinnati versus Ohio State, I'd probably go with Ohio State.
Right, but so the point I'm making, Tyler, is that you can have the beautiful girlfriend here, but if she's not going to walk arm in arm with you, you don't know what you got. It doesn't make any sense.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
and a lot of people are upset about this. I mean, the Big Ten has really, and it's not. I don't blame Ohio State. I blame the Big Ten, and that's what's sad about the whole situation. It's crazy.
Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder, joining us this afternoon. Lots of theories that are out there and crash theories. I wanted to go over some of them with you today. The first one involves what happens if we don't have an ACC championship game. And I say this because COVID-19 knows no weakness, my friend. And if there's contact tracing and we don't have enough players for one said team, how do you think that will affect the college football playoff?
I mean, that's another thing. I'd have to know how many other games were played. I mean, I guess Notre Dame would technically be in, and then Clemson would be up in the air. But I like the Clemson Tigers in this matchup with Notre Dame if they do end up playing. So we'll see if both teams do get in, if Clemson wins. I know if Clemson does not win, they probably will not get in the college football playoff, which would be odd because they've been a mainstay in the last 5 years or so. But I'm going to roll with Trevor Lawrence on this one. Only lost one game to the LSU Tigers. Ian Book's a great quarterback, but he's not on the same level as Trevor Lawrence. Brian Kelly's been in this situation before, so I think Dabo Swinney's going to have his guys ready to roll. And let's just hope and pray for everyone's safety. That's the number one thing. I don't think people bring that up enough. That's the number one thing. If it's safe to play, let's play it. But if not, man, I don't know what would happen, Rob. I would still probably put in Clemson over Ohio State team that played 5 games. Yeah. So it's really, can Florida beat Alabama? That's what the real shakeup is in this playoff.
That's exactly what Edwin brings up in the live stream over here. What happens if Florida beats Alabama by 4 touchdowns? I know we're looking at grasping at crazy stuff here, but crazy things happen, my friend. And if that happens, then what?
I think Alabama is in regardless, Rob. I really do. I think now, yes, you're right. They can't go out there and get beat by 28, to Florida. But if they lose a close game, 7 points, 3 points, 10 points, Alabama's going to get in the playoff, even with a loss. I think most people are on the same page of that. Alabama's going to get in just how great they've been, how dominant they've been this year. And if they lose to a good Florida team, then, I think they get in. But if Florida loses, then that's when it really opens up a little bit for teams like Texas A&M, Cincinnati, and then, Ohio State. I think there's really 7, 8 teams with a chance right now to get in the playoffs.
And with that, there are some other not conspiracy theories, but chaos theories that are out there. And I step back and I look at some of these, and some of them are really, really on the far end of it. You've got LSU playing a Florida team this weekend. LSU is definitely the wounded animal right now. I don't know how this LSU team is going to come out. Are they going to come out as, hey, we're angry? Or are they going to come out and just be, let's just get it over with? They've already said they're, quote unquote, opting out of their bowl game. That's one of the more interesting matchups this weekend.
Yeah, I think Florida is going to steamroll over LSU this weekend, and the miserable season for Ed Orgeron and the Tigers will finally be over. The nightmare that this season was, because let's just be honest, they were one of the best teams in the last 15 years last year. That team was special. I actually picked the Clemson Tigers against them last year, and so I had LSU. I think they were beatable last year, but they were a great team last year. And then to go from how good they were last year to this year, it's just a complete 180 right now. And I don't think they can get the 60 minutes over with quick enough for that team. And I like Florida big in that one.
Well, there's also some stuff that I guess is coming up behind the scenes here with guys that are leaving. The big notable name is tight end Eric Gilbert, who is supposed to be one of the best receiving tight ends in the country, a big dynamic freshman for them. 2 touchdown catches on the season. He's opted out for the year. He may transfer. Is Coach Orgeron, do you think, in your opinion, losing his grip on the Tigers?
I don't think he's losing his grip. I don't think that the cap is off the bottle per se. Let's just go with that analogy, because I couldn't think of a better one. But Ed Orgeron right now, I think he's got to get that program back on track. He's got a top recruiting class for next year. His main focus right now has got to be keeping that recruiting class together, because some guys are going to want to jump ship right now, similar to what Eric Gilbert's going to do. And Eric Gilbert, let's just be honest, where he's probably going to be looking at. This is a guy who is from Marietta, Georgia, won a national title at Marietta High School last year. They were not only a state champion, but they were up there with USA Today poll national champs, I believe. One of the top 10 teams in the country. He could be definitely going to the University of Georgia. Also keep Clemson in mind. Clemson Tigers, not a very far drive away from the Atlanta area as well. So those are 2 teams to look out for when it comes to Gilbert.
What about South Carolina? New head coach in Shane Beamer, who is a young guy that's going to hit the recruiting trail hard. I don't think that it's out of the realm to think that he's at least going to get a call from Beamer.
Yeah, he definitely got to pick up the phone. He was the number 1 tight end coming out of last year. Like you said, a big receiving threat, kind of a two position guy. he was recruited as a defensive end as well. So he's an athletic guy. And the only reason I say Georgia, Rob, and not really saying he fits their scheme or anything. They already have Washington at tight end, but he was really, really highly recruited by Georgia, and it was between LSU and Georgia at the time. So just a school to keep a name out there. I know Georgia's kind of been overrated the last few years. I know you don't per se like the University of Georgia, but
slow down. It's not that I don't like the University of Georgia. Let's get that out there. It's just an issue of I think that Gilbert's going to want to go close to home, but I think that I think Clemson could be in the mix. Same thing for South Carolina. I think Georgia's right there too. It's just all of those are close to Marietta in theory. So he may go to one of those 3 if it's down to, hey, I want to play close to home. So he said something the other day about, yeah, my body's hurting and, there's some homesickness issues. And,
Yeah, I
you never
saw it.
know until you have to deal with that. But, either way, good luck to the young man. Maybe he'll figure out where he's going to go. He may shock us all and stay at LSU. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility once these coaches, these are 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, so they can easily change their mind.
You're exactly right about that. All right, so we're getting closer to signing day, man. Are you hearing any news on the recruiting front about any players that may be moving around? I've heard stuff about Corey Foreman, the number one defensive end in the country, top 5 player overall. Had a visit to Clemson's, also looking at Arizona State, visited there last weekend. Lord only knows where this guy is going to go, but are you hearing any movements on the recruiting front?
I know where I'm down here in Georgia, Jake Garcia, a highly talented guy who had committed to USC, transferred from California to Georgia this year, went to one school. They said he couldn't play, transferred to now Grayson High School. So he's had a crazy senior year. I'm pretty sure he decommitted from USC, or I got to keep up with that a little bit. But that's one story and a name to watch out for. Jake Garcia, highly talented quarterback. I think he's a 4-star guy. As far as teams and other things like that, I probably could hit the recruiting rankings and websites a little harder right now. Yeah, Jake Garcia, that's a name to throw out there for the listeners.
All right, man. So we've got some NFL picks coming up this weekend. Do you have any good? You have the pick for tonight with the Patriots playing the Rams. Patriots just beat the snot out of the Chargers, 45-0. Seems like they're getting themselves together. What do you think of that matchup tonight?
Yeah, they are. I think that this is going to be a good matchup. I think that the Los Angeles Rams defense versus the New England Patriots offense is the key in this game. Cam Newton has not been himself throwing the football. This team has kind of turned into a bend but don't, on offense. They're just not creating explosive plays down the field. I think Cam Newton has 5 touchdowns, 9 picks. He's got more wins as a starting quarterback than throwing touchdowns. So I think the Rams and Jalen Ramsey, what they're going to do is they're going to play bump and run versus receivers, and they're going to let Aaron Donald and the defensive line kind of try to shut down that running game and force Cam Newton to throw the football tonight. And I just like this Los Angeles Rams offensive scheme. Sean McVay's done a heck of a job. They're 8-4 as well, coming off a big win versus the Arizona Cardinals. So I know the line has moved to 4.5 right now. I'm all over the Los Angeles Rams tonight. I'm saying 27-17, something like that, 7 to 10-point game. So I'm on the Rams tonight, and that's my pick for the NFL tonight.
All right, I got to kick ahead to the weekend. The Army-Navy game this weekend coming up. Which way are you rolling in that game? Army, I think, is a 4-point favorite over Navy. Man, that's one of my favorite matchups of the year, man. What do you think about that matchup between the two service academies?
Yeah, and this is how I always roll on this game, Rob. Jeff Monken, he's the head coach of the Army football team. He was the head coach when I was at Georgia Southern. So this is a guy who I've known, I've kept up with, interviewed him back in the day for a college assignment. I mean, he's a good guy. He's a great coach, and I will always roll with Jeff Monken and his staff. Brought a lot of the Georgia Southern staff with him up there to Army. So I'll go with Army just based off that. I'm not even talking football right now. It's a great game no matter what, but I'll go ahead and take Army. I'll give Jeff Monken the points on this one.
By the way, you should be following Tyler on Twitter. He's at Tyler Crowder, also on Facebook. He's on Facebook as well, but his YouTube channel, he posted a video yesterday with a kind of a breakdown on some the quarterback for BYU, Zach Smith, and just kind of what his NFL stuff, stock, and things like that. Tyler's really good at the whole player evaluation thing. But, Tyler, you're looking to do more of those, right?
Yes. Zach Wilson, I did the draft profile on him the other day. I have Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama, coming up, and also Clemson fans, Travis Etienne. I'll have his player comparison to. I really think he reminds me a lot of a guy like Alvin Kamara. I think that player comparison is very close. I think Etienne could be a late first round, probably early second round pick. How running backs are kind of trending right now in the NFL. I think he's a first round talent, but he could fall a little bit. But we'll see what happens. But I'm going to have 2 videos on them, have some other videos on Micah Parsons and Patrick Surtain from Alabama. So really excited to bring those videos to you guys as well.
All right, follow Tyler on Twitter. He's at Kicking It with Crow. Tyler, hey, man, thanks for joining us on the rundown today, buddy. We appreciate it.
Rob, always, man. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
All right, there you go. Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder. Tyler knows like crazy numbers and stats and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I wanted to bring him in today, talk a little bit, and get his betting picks because he picks it's like 65% against the spreads. Really, really solid in the past 3 months or so. He likes Army on Saturday. So do I. By the way, I'll have full picks coming up for you on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. It's so weird because we've been having South Carolina and Clemson games, and of course we cover them both here. And I've been working both ends of that. We don't have a game for either team this week, so it's kind of thrown me off. Kind of crazy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take your calls at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the rundown, we got some comments from the virtual world here. We'll get into that. Some of them are on fire over there. We'll talk about that and a lot more in just a moment. You're listening to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. You guys are hilarious over there with Florida goes 2-10. Wow, that's harsh. Next year they think they're going 2-10. I don't know if I'm buying that, Noah. Will with a good point is a 5-0 team compared to a 10-0 team. The 5-0 team seems to get more credit. Yeah, there's that too. Kind of sad when you really stop and think about it. Dennis says ETN should be a top 5 pick. I don't know if you go that high, you know? I really don't. That's kind of a tough thing to swallow there. I appreciate you guys on YouTube over there watching today. Jackpot and I do our podcast on Wednesday and Sunday. Some of y'all I've seen in there before, but we decided to start streaming this show, which airs every day at 3:00. So you can get the best of the college football world in, an hour a day. So, and of course you can interact on the bottom. Brock, I'm going to talk about that. I don't think that's a bad idea, but we'll get into that when I come back in about 45 seconds to the actual radio portion of the show. This is different for me actually doing the radio show. And because with YouTube, you can't play anything that's remotely copyrighted. And so like right now I'm playing my spot breaks here and there'll be bumper music coming and all that. I can't play any of that, which is kind of weird, but yeah, so I'm working on that. I like Derek Mason too. That's a great thing, man. Why not? I would go that route. I don't have the COVID, just allergies. All right, here we go. Welcome back into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world, the iHeartRadio app, 803-978-1832, 803-978. Well, 1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here today. Some interesting comments coming up in our chat room here, which you can watch the show. Just look for the rundown on Facebook, and you can watch there. This is some interesting comments here. We'll go with Brock first. Would Charlie Strong as a defensive coordinator at South Carolina be a good hire? Yeah, if he wants to be, if he's got that itch scratched where it's like, hey, I wanted to be a head coach to see if I could do it. He did okay at Louisville. Did really good at Louisville. The question is can he continue? I still think he's a good defensive mind. Does he want to come back to South Carolina? There's that too. If you've already been here before, do you want to come back? So, I mean, it would be a good hire as far as coming back and doing his thing here, but we'll see how that goes. Derek Mason is another guy that Brock mentions there too. I don't know. You got to think about this too. With Derek Mason, maybe he just wants to chill out a little bit. I mean, he's going to get paid from Vanderbilt regardless. I think a lot of guys, I think if they come back right after they get fired, they're going to take like a coordinator spot and they're going to go right into it really, really quickly and thinking, all right, if I can go and set the world on fire as a coordinator, I could be right back into a Power 5 job, sort of like what Will Muschamp did. And I think that that's not really what you want. I think that getting a young, on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, I think that that's kind of the best way to go because then they're willing to build themselves a little bit. And I think that on offensive coordinator, you remember Bud Foster at Virginia Tech? He was there for eons, okay? That's not the norm anymore. Nobody goes and stays to be an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator forever. That's just the way that it is. You can make the argument that there's some unicorns out there like Brent Venables. So who's the defensive coordinator? Does he want to be a head coach? I don't know. If he wanted to, he probably would have already been doing that by now. So when it comes to South Carolina's front, though, it's going to be, I like the idea of going really young. I'd rather deal with some of the mistakes that you have with a younger coach than to get a, somewhat of an older coach that may be more grizzled and maybe not want to be completely on board. But saying that, I like Coach Johnson, Coach Ellis Johnson, to be the defensive coordinator. I think I've mentioned that before. If he wanted to coach, that would be great. One of the other things I like is you've got Frank Beamer, who is going to be somewhat helping out with the staff there. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome into the rundown. What you got for the show today?
Hey, Rob, it's Ray. How you doing?
Ray, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm a Gamecock fan. I heard you say Charlie Strong. I think Charlie Strong's a good coach and was a good recruiter and all that. Man, the only thing I can remember is third and long Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you how many games at least a couple I can remember. I mean, it was 3rd and 21 against Tennessee. And the only thing we had to do was hold them and get the ball. We could have probably killed the clock and won the game. And they complete like a 22-yard pass. I mean, it's just, oh, man, I can't tell you the nightmares I have with 3rd and long Charlie Strong. But I just had to throw that piece in there.
What do you think of Coach Ellis Johnson? Because I thought that he built some great defenses over there at South Carolina, in my opinion. That I know obviously got to have talent. I get that. But, man, I just if he really wants to coach, man, that would be a dynamite hire, in my opinion, for a Coach Beamer.
I would be more than fine with that. Coach Johnson, he's proven himself. And if you can get him, I would definitely get him. And what I think that could do, Rob, is you get that defensive coordinator that has savvy and experience like Ellis does. And then, you get the hot shot, young up-and-coming OC like the coach at Oklahoma's brother. My goodness, I can't believe it.
Garrett Riley is his name. But
Riley, exactly.
on the defensive side of the ball, though, if you have Coach Johnson, then you get, a linebackers coach or a defensive line coach that is kind of an up-and-comer, but let him get tutored under Coach Johnson. That way, Coach Johnson, if he wants to retire in 3-4 years, you promote this secondary coach, linebackers coach, whatever it is, and then you've got, you're building your program from within. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely, and for once, we're talking about the Gamecocks, we're thinking outside the box as younger coaches. And to be honest with you, Rob, I thought this was a move we would have made 5 years ago instead of pulling in Muschamp, pulling some guy that, who was kind of like the guy we got now. Some guy that's young and kind of hungry,
right,
and had good contacts. But I'm excited about Shane Beamer. I'm very excited. I look forward to what's going on. But my question I also wanted to ask you,
sure,
if somehow the Gamecocks get into a bowl game, do their coaches get a bonus for that?
I don't know on that front, but from folks that I have talked to, South Carolina's not going to a bowl game. I mean, and let's be honest. I think Teddy Hefner said it this morning. Do you really want to see this team in a bowl game? Come on now.
I don't want to see this team play it again this year. I don't know if there's enough inpatient hospital rooms in the location of it playing, because it's a team that's very fragile now. But hey, enjoy the show. Thank you very kindly, sir.
All right, sir. Thanks so much for joining us on the rundown today. You can join us as well, 803-978-1832. Jimmy says he likes Tracy Rocker a lot. And this is the best part of when you have a new coach come in. You can talk about all the different things and stuff that you've seen guys do with other programs and think, man, that would be great for the Gamecocks if they had this or that or whatever. And you never always get what you want, but it's still cool. It's one of the cooler parts about a coaching change. I do agree with what he said, though, about going with the younger coach. This is something South Carolina hasn't really done in a while. I mean, they went from, I guess, since Brad Scott, basically, they went from, Coach Holtz to Coach Spurrier to Will Muschamp. And, I mean, let's be honest, no disrespect to those three gentlemen. Two of them are Hall of Famers, but they've already made their bones somewhere else. So, yeah, there's that. All right, well, we'll take more calls on this at 803-978-1832. We'll also talk about some folks are upset that Kevin Harris was left off the Doak Walker reward list, even though he leads the SEC in rushing. We'll talk about that when we come back. And we got a couple of little things that we'll throw out there as well. We'll talk a little bit about, I've got some Gamecock basketball notes, including cancellation of another game. Yeah, that's happened. COVID-19 is not our friend. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you on the rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. You're funny, Brock. Kale has a lot of passion, man. My favorite thing with Kale about he said something along the lines of, I wish this team would get upset like I did when I was in high school. I hit some guy so hard I had to go apologize to his mama. That's what you want in a football player. I think Kale would bring that passion, but he'd also get just upset if something happened. He would be losing his gourd. So yeah, there's that. I do like Tracy Rocker, Jimmy. You're right about that, man. You want to know the bad thing is, like, I think I have a worse temper than Kale does. So there you go. Hey guys, I think I'm gonna have Levon Kirkland on with me tomorrow, the former Clemson defensive. Oh, he was a linebacker. I'm sorry. I'm thinking he's a defensive lineman. You guys ever met Levon Kirkland? He is a massive individual, man. He looks just, you shake his hand, it's like, whoa. He's still big as all get out, I can't imagine somebody at his weight being fast, but he was. Oh my goodness. I'm probably going to have him on the show tomorrow. Talk a little bit of football tomorrow. He's got like he's coached everywhere. He coached with the in the NFL, coached in college, all over the place, man. He was, man. He was great. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeartRadio app. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
What's up, Jack Paul? How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Living another day.
I hear you. What you got for the show today?
I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but you know what? Clemson, they are not top five. They are not top five.
Okay.
I mean, as a South Carolina fan, as a Gamecock fan, I hate Clemson. I mean, all Gamecock fans hate Clemson. But who does Clemson really play unless it's Notre Dame?
Well, they have a win over a top 10 Miami team, so that would be that.
Yeah, Miami and Notre Dame. I'm not gonna say South Carolina could win the ACC if them and Clemson switch, but I just don't think Clemson is top five. I think that it'd be a close game with Notre Dame. I do in the ACC. Championship game. Even if they do play, but I just don't see Clemson beating Notre Dame in the ACC game. I know that Trevor Lawrence was out, a bunch of their defensive player was out, but I think that Notre Dame's going to come in firing on all levels and beat Clemson. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I just believe Clemson isn't as good as what everybody thinks they are.
You know, you can make that argument. Clemson, though, it's one of the interesting things is people talk about with the Clemson schedule. If you look at Alabama, they have three teams against the top, 3 wins against top 25 teams. Clemson's played 2 top 25 teams. So the 3 wins for Alabama, that's great, but Clemson lost the number 2 Notre Dame by a field goal on the road. And then they popped
double overtime.
10, yeah, and they popped a top 10 Miami team. So the adage that they don't play anyone is kind of out there when you just look at those numbers.
Oh yeah, and and Alabama. Alabama and Nick Saban. As long as Nick Saban's there, Alabama's going to have all the recruits. They're going to be in the top 3. So number 1. Until Nick Saban collapses on the field and dies, because I feel like he's going to be there until he collapses on the field and dies.
Yeah, man, you're probably right about that. Hey, bud, I appreciate you calling the show today.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Yeah, he's right about that. As far as Nick Saban's he'll coach forever. I really believe that. It may be like Weekend at Bernie's eventually, where they're just wheeling him out and he just stands there on like a hand truck, and they've got somebody moving his arms like he's a puppeteer. But I mock, but Coach Saban just doesn't care, man. He looks like he could run a marathon today. Some interesting comments here. Brock says this guy sounds upset that Clemson is doing better than South Carolina. Well, if you're a rival, you get upset. I understand that. That happens, But I get frustrated when people talk about, Clemson hasn't played anybody. They have 1 less top 25 win than Alabama has. It's not like they're playing the BYU schedule. I'm just saying. It's really... And a lot of the SEC apologists, that'll be the first thing out of their mouths is that, well, Clemson has Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, and they'll list 4 or 5 ACC teams. But then when you list back to them, in the SEC, you can play Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, right on down the line. And people are going to be like, when they stop and look at that. I don't like doing the whole conference debate thing because it never really ends up anywhere. Because you're going to have people that grew up watching SEC football, and that's all they're going to think of is that the SEC is the absolute best. That's just the way that it is. And you can't change their minds. So Dennis online says that caller's crazy if he thinks Notre Dame will beat Clemson twice in a season. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be hard, but the big thing with that, and this is the thing that bothers me with that matchup. Everyone talks about, well, if Trevor Lawrence would have played, DJ Uiagalelei, I'm trying so hard to pronounce his name correctly. That guy threw for the most yards as an opponent ever in the history of Notre Dame Stadium. The offense was not the problem that night. The problem was the defense. The fact that they didn't have Tyler Davis, who's going to be playing on Sundays, and they didn't have James Skalski. Those two guys play. I think Clemson wins that game. I think it's close, but I don't think that Notre Dame is going to be running the ball, and especially they wouldn't be able to run much up the middle. I guarantee you on that, because Davis isn't having it. Not having it at all. Now, they may have implemented some things where Ian Book could have scrambled around a little bit and made some more plays. I'll buy that. But those two players, in my opinion, being out, were bigger than Trevor Lawrence being out. And I know that upsets some people because they think that everything's, it begins and ends with the quarterback. And yeah, it does. But I'm here to tell you, there, in my opinion, is not much of a difference in 1A and 1B at Clemson. I think Coach Sweeney thinks he can go out there and win with either guy. Now, I know that Uiagalelei needs a little bit more time, but you've seen what he could do. Throw the ball all over the place. So the adage that it was that game with the adage of what lost Clemson that game was the offense is absolutely silly. We are going to talk about Kevin Harris when we come back. There's a lot of some bitterness out there. Why isn't Kevin Harris on the Doak Walker award list? And you can make an argument that he should be there. There's also some things out there that can tell you why he's not. But I'm going to be completely honest with you with one thing, and we'll talk more about this when we get back from our break here. He is, in my opinion, he will be the preseason first-team All-SEC running back next season. Simple as that. And I don't know what kind of offense South Carolina is going to be running. I think that if the media is smart, the people that vote on those things, if they don't put him up there, then they just don't understand the game of hut very well. So his time will come for him to shine. He is that good of a player. Quick question from Jimmy here. If it was the defensive depth this year at Clemson was a little thin, when you count the guys that are in the league from Clemson the last couple of years, it's understandable. Yeah, you can definitely make that point. AJ Terrell is probably going to be one of the all defensive players for the rookies. One of the rookie all defensive players. Yeah, he'll be that guy. They're talking about him being one of the best defensive backs in the NFL. His last game in a Clemson uniform, though, he got lit up by like a Christmas tree by Joe Burrow, though. Woof. Remember watching that game. That was not very cool. All right, don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. Also, Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is next. He's the czar of Clemson sports. Be sure to check out his show from 4 to 6 right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. My name is Rob Sanders. I will be right back with our final segment of this Thursday afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jimmy's right about that, man. Clemson's got a lot of guys that are in the NFL, man. It's crazy. The SEC is making a big announcement tonight. We'll see what that is. For those looking for a holiday gift, check this out. It's called a Hydro Flask. You put like 5 ice cubes in it in the morning and then water in it, and it's ice water all day. Like Arctic cold. I think they're like $28 for a bottle. But I don't know if you can see it or not, but mine's got dents in it because I'm a dope and I drop mine all the time. When it hits the ground, it's loud. It's like dong. Sounds like the bell tolling. stupid. Anyway, you folks on YouTube, man, appreciate you guys following the show. We'll be every day at 3:00 right here on the Jackpot channel here, as Kale lets me stream the show here. I appreciate him for that. All right, here we go. Coming back. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeartRadio app. Let's talk about the Kevin Harris thing really quick here, and then a major announcement coming from the SEC today at 6:00. I don't know what it's going to be, but some of the speculation online I'll share with you really quick here after we talk about Kevin Harris. There's a lot of folks out there that are upset that Kevin Harris did not make the Doak Walker Award list. And I think it's because he wasn't on the preseason watch list. I think that's what it basically boils down to. Some of the reasons he could have been kept off, though, he wasn't really the clear-cut starter until late, in my opinion. And I think that they also look at it from the perspective of, yeah, he got 1,138 yards, but 400 of those yards basically came against two schools, Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. Maybe that was something that they were thinking about. So all due respect to Kevin Harris, he's going to get his time to shine next season. Couple of comments from the chat room here. Randy says, with Skalski being hurt, they need to play Xavier Thomas at linebacker. He would shut down any run game. I don't know how well of shape, and I say that in that I'm not in shape, but I don't know if Xavier Thomas is completely in game shape yet. I don't know for sure. Here's what I do know, though. I kind of agree with Sid Irish here. The winner of the SEC ACC championship game should play for the title. Everyone else can screw off. Very good, sir. By the way, this is something that's out there today. The SEC announced that Commissioner Greg Sankey will announce the news at 6:00 in a call with the media. A significant announcement. That's very vague. Now, I have no clue what it is. But some of the comments from people online are great. One guy says, it's been a nice run, Vandy, but I'm sure you'll be much happier in the AAC. I don't know what they're announcing today. We'll find out. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome into the rundown. I don't know what that is, but we'll figure that out. All right. 803-978-1832. Another comment says, Huskers finally got their invite. That's really funny. Vanderbilt out, Memphis in. Some other notes. Someone tweeted out, the SEC will form its own playoff. Alabama will claim 10 national titles this year because it's felt like a decade anyway. That's really good. Tennessee is cold in December. They've captured the cast of SEC shorts and will execute them at dawn. I don't know what they're announcing. We shall see. We shall see. Someone says maybe it's a new television contract. Alabama and Florida games canceled this weekend. And then someone says the fact that 500 reporters don't seem to know what the SEC announcement is already makes me think maybe it's basketball related. Ding, ding, ding. Ed Aubrey Bloom. Good for you, sir. Good for you. Seth Emerson of Athletic may have figured it out, though. He says this may or may not be related to the significant announcement. Today is Disney's Investor Day, and the SEC and Disney have been deep in talks about a TV deal. Then why can't you just send that out? I don't get all that. All those other things would make sense, though, with the SEC. I mean, are you tired of having Vanderbilt in there for basically just college baseball? Just saying. You never know. 803-978-1832. Are you upset that Kevin Harris is not on the Doak Walker Award list? Yeah, we've got that out there. We'll also take calls on Ohio State. Should they be in the college football playoff as of next week? Because they're not going to play this week. We'll see how that works out for them. 803-978-1832. We'll take your calls this afternoon here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. We mentioned coaches that are getting fired. The SEC East has the potential to have 3 new coaches next year. We've already got 2. Shane Beamer taking over at South Carolina. Lord only knows who's going to be at Vanderbilt, but I think Tennessee is going to be a team that makes a change. And right now, especially if Vanderbilt, a team that doesn't have a coach, can beat them this weekend, if Tennessee loses to Vandy, I mean, they should Lane Kiffin. What I mean by that is fire this guy on the tarmac. Don't let him ride the team plane. He may affect the team for next season. That's how I feel on that front. But Tennessee may end up having to find a new coach as well, so we'll see how that goes. Out to the phones we go before we get out of here today. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Good evening, Rob. Bobby from Casey. How are you?
Hey, Bobby. What are you up to, my friend?
Oh, well, plain and simple. I want to tell you. I believe Ralph Russo and some sources on Twitter have said that Greg Sankey's big announcement at 6 p.m. is that Disney is going to buy away the rights of the not prime time, 3:30 CBS game on WLTX 19.
Yeah, I think that's what Seth Emerson tweeted out there. So
there's a few people who have leaked it out that I guess have tied. Their sources are Greg Sankey. So
yeah, well, what are they gonna put it on Disney Plus or what are they gonna do?
Don't know yet. I guess when he comes on live on Paul Feinbaum,
yeah,
he'll probably announce who's going to end up getting it. Yeah, but I also heard a figure on another radio station in town that will eventually bump up $30 million per school. That's all 14 schools will get paid big, $30 million when Disney buys it away from CBS.
Disney owns everything, my friend. I mean, they bought Star Wars, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but they've also dumped off a lot of high-priced talent, too, at their network.
That's a good point, man, over there with ESPN
and
everything else.
Well, case in point, I can tell you right now, Phil Steele didn't re-up with them in the pregame this year. Also, I'm a hockey guy. Pierre LeBrun is no longer with them.
Man, we should sit down one day and talk. I like to talk some puck, man. We can do that.
Yeah, but they dumped off quite a few, so you probably see some more leaving here soon. But CBS probably lost a lot of advertising revenue, and they didn't get a return on their $1 billion for this year's tournament and men's basketball because there was none.
Yeah, that's
so
a good
they probably
point,
had to let that drift away,
Yeah,
it's a bidding war. They get the advertising dollars in. It's a bidding war. So ESPN Disney just outbid CBS for the 3:30 slot.
Yeah, okay? Good point, man. Hey, man, thank you for calling.
Tune in at 6 p.m. on Paul Feinbaum. Not to put a plug. I know he's on a rival station in the afternoon from yours.
No problem, man. I mean, they'll have the information out there, but thanks a lot, buddy.
Exactly.
All right, bud. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, Rob.
Thank you, man. Yeah, because I think it does come down to that with the whole ESPN thing, Disney, ESPN. I wonder where they're going to put it, though. Can you imagine having to subscribe to Disney Plus to get your SEC 3:30 matchup? People would lose their mind. It would be insane. So with that, we'll have to figure that out, but that's going to be interesting. What comes up at 6 o'clock today with the SEC. Tomorrow, working on getting some guests for our show. We'll also have our full picks tomorrow for the weekend, including the Army-Navy matchup and several other little things here that are percolating through the weekend. Clemson's got a basketball game at Alabama. Clemson's played, I think it's they're 4-0, but after the Alabama game, 5 of their 6, they'll be, if they win that game, they could be like 5-0. I can't remember. They played one team that's not a Power 5 team. And they got wins over Purdue, and they beat Maryland pretty heftily yesterday. So Tigers are off to a good start. By the way, South Carolina, of course, canceled their game with Wofford tonight, and they canceled their game on Monday with George Washington. So their next matchup is set for a week from Sunday when they will play Clemson. Clemson will come to Columbia. So yeah, there's that. COVID-19 does not like us. All right, podcast of the show will be up 5 o'clock this afternoon. Anywhere you find your favorite podcast, look it up there. You can also interact with me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. And don't forget, Teddy Hefner's on in the morning. He's on from 9 to noon. Teddy's got all of your good stuff. You can find him on the iHeartRadio app and listen in there. And don't forget Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk as well. He's the czar of Clemson Sports on the vast Clemson Sports Talk Radio Network, 100.1 The Fan in Florence, 920 AM in Manning, and the crown jewel right here in Columbia with Fox Sports Radio 1400. Also, in the coming week, we're going to preview more of the Clemson-Notre Dame game, working on getting some insiders from the Irish to come on and talk about that matchup. And we'll start looking ahead to some bowl games. I think everyone's opting out of bowls. They may not have enough teams to field a bowl matchups, to be honest with you. So we'll keep up with that and a lot more on the rundown. Appreciate you listening to us on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all, man. We'll see you tomorrow.